Jayo Radha Madhova Kunja Biharte Radha Madhova Kunja Biharte Jayo Radha Madhova Kunja Biharte Madhova Kunja Biharte Gopi Janamalabha Girivardhanaute Gopi Janamalabha Girivardhanaute Yasunanandana Rajajana Ranjana Yasunanandana Brachachana Ranjana Jamunatira Vanachauti Yamunatira Vanachauti Jayorandhu Madhua Kunja Biharte Jayorandhu Madhova Kunja Biharte Gopi Janabalabha Girivardhanaute Lava Girivardhanaute Gopi Janabalabha Girivardhanaute Yasunanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yasunanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamunatira Vanachauti Yamunatira Vanachauti Jaya Radhu Madhuva Kunja Biharte Jaya Radhu Madhava Kunja Biharte No Madhuva Kunja Biharte Jai Om Vishnu Pad Paramahansa Paravatikacharya also Teta Satashi Shimad His Divine Grace Abhaya Charanada Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Anandakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Vedas Thakur Ki Jai. Rem say Go Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shitweda Gadadha Shivasati Gaur Bhaktivinoda Jai Shri Shri Radhakrishna Gopinath Shaima Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavanam Ki Jai Mathuranam Ki Jai Jagat Swami Ki Jai Munamai Ki Jai Srimati Tulasi Devi Ki Jai Samveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Gaur Premananda Hari Hari Bol. All glories the assembled devotees. All glories the assembled devotees. All glories the assembled devotees. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swamiti Chinamati Namaste Saraswati Devi. Gauravani Pacharni Nivashesha Srinivati Pashyata Dejatarni. So, we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, 64th chapter. Is it 23, right? 23. Text 23. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Purvang Tvam Ashubhang Mongsha Utaho Ripate Shubham Nantang Dhanasya Dharmasya Pashe Lokasya Vashvata Purvam Tvam Ashubhang Mongsha Mongsha Utaho Nipate Shubham Nantam Dhanasya Dharmasya Pashe Lokasya Vashvata Urvang Tvam Ashubhang Mongsha Utaho Nipate Shubham Nantam Dhanasya Dharmasya Pashe Lokasya Vashvata Purvang Tvam Ashubhang Mongsha Utaho Nipate Shubham Nantam Dhanasya Dharmasya Pashe Lokasya Vashvata. Okay. Okay. Purvam, first. Tvam, you. Ashubham, impious reactions. Vonkshe, wish to experience. Uta aha u, or else. Ripate, O king. Shubhang, pious reactions. Na, not. Antam, the end. Danasha, of charity. Hormasha, religious. Pashe, I see. Lokasha, of the world. Vashvata, shining. Translation, Yamaraj said, my dear king, do you wish to experience the results of your sins first, or those of your piety? Indeed, I see no end to the dutiful charity you have performed, or to your consequent enjoyment in the radiant heavenly planets. She can repeat, Yamaraj said, my dear king, do you wish to experience the results of your sins first, or those of your piety? Indeed, I see no end to the dutiful charity you have performed, or to your consequent enjoyment in the radiant heavenly planets. So there is no purport by the followers of His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada, but the commentaries are there, very short commentaries of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Jiva Goswami, and Sanatana Goswami, so we'll read them. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur states, do you first want to experience the sinful reaction, for unknowingly taking away the Brahmana's cow, or the pious reactions to your charities? I do not see an end to the results of your charities. I do not see an end to your living in Swargaloka, Bhosvata Lokasha. And Jiva Goswami states, will you experience the sin arising from taking the cow, Ashubham, first? I see no end of your staying in Swarga, shining with wondrous happiness and powers because of your unlimited performance of sacrifices, dharmasya, and charity. And finally, Sanatana Goswami comments, will you experience the sin arising from taking the cow or the suffering? Ashubham, first. Though charity is included in Dharma, it is mentioned separately because of his great endeavors of giving. Or though charity is included in Dharma, it is stated because by that he would go to Swarga shining with unlimited wealth and happiness. His excellent life in the higher planets, like Dhruvaloka, is described. Again, the verse. Purang Brahmashubhang Bungswa Utahon Pate Shubham Nantang Danasya Dharmasya Pashe Lokasya Bhasvata. So, Om Gana Timidandasya Gananjana Shilakya Chakshur Unmeditam Yena Tasmai Shigurave Namaha. So, several points here that are quite interesting. One point I find extremely interesting is it points out that King Riga had a desire to go to Swarga, and that was one of his main motivations for performing all these different pious activities. And of course, that's the karma kanja process by which one desires. The Swarga, of course, what? Does anyone know? Heavenly planets. And you get to go there by performing pious activities. Of course, according to the Vedic literatures, not just pious activities that you may be thinking are pious, but activities giving charity at the proper time, place, and circumstance to the proper person. And then you get to go to Swarga. And of course, as we know, there's a problem with Swarga. What's the problem? Shane Punye Marcha, Lokam Vishanti. That when your pious activities run out, you're finished. You come back to this planet, and then you got to build up your pious activities to go back again. And sometimes you can even send some of your ancestors to a heavenly place. It's called Pitshri Loka, if you like, by performing this Pinda ceremony. And it's something like paying the bills for your relatives while they're in Hawaii or something like that, in a vacation place. In other words, you give them a credit card, and you pay the credit card, and they're enjoying life. And as soon as you stop paying the credit card, what happens? They get kicked out of the hotel. And so there's an interesting story in the Mahabharata about this personality named Jarakaru. I may have told this story before. The Jarakaru, very interesting personality. He was determined to remain brahmachari. And that means he didn't want to get married. And so, therefore, I guess you have to be married to do this pinda. Although, sometimes you hear brahmacharis doing it too. But anyway, so he was wandering through the forest, very, very happy, chanting his rounds. Hare Krishna, Jai Sachinandana, Jai Sachinandana. And he comes across these personalities who are hanging upside down over a hole in the ground. And they're being held by a rope, and the rope is being eaten by a rat. And he comes across these personalities, and he says, "What's happening?" I mean, it's quite interesting. He didn't try to pull them out, but in any case, they explain this is because our family member is not doing what? Pinda. And therefore, we're going to what? Hell. That's why a son is called what? Putra. And a daughter should be called Putri. So, so basically, he says, well, I feel very compassionate for you. Maybe I can, maybe I can find your descendant and convince him to do Pinda. And they said, what's the name? He asked, what's the name of your descendant? And they said, what? Jarakaro. You're him. And he said, oh my God. Now I got to get married. So, of course, the famous story in Mahabharata is he stated that I'll only get married to someone with the same name as me. So he's going through the forest thinking he tricked everybody. But then somehow or other, he says, if anyone has the same name with me, I'll get married to her. And it turns out that Vasuki, Naga, he had a sister named Jarakaru, and they got married, and that's the story of Astika. Anyway, that's another story from the Mahabharata. So, in any case, that's the business of the son is to do this pinda, to save the child, save the parents and the forefathers from hell. But in any case, it's temporary, because once your line of descendants runs out, you come back to this earth planet, or you go to hell, you have to suffer your karma. So anyway, King Riga was desiring to go to heaven. That was one of his faults. In other words, as was pointed out yesterday by Omkara Prabhu very nicely, that when one does these karmakanja activities, one has desires, personal desires. And not only does one have personal desires, one actually develops pride, thinking oneself to be very pious. Evidence of this in this particular story is that King Riga, of course, he was prideful. Two evidences I'm going to give in this regard. Prideful of his ability to perform pious activities. One evidence is that he actually was bragging before Krishna. You know, he was saying, he actually detailed all the pious activities he had done. You know, like I gave unlimited cows to so many brahmanas. You know, so that's bragging. He could have made it very simple. Said, you know, I made a mistake. I did pious activities, and I didn't understand that I would also have to become a lizard. But he didn't approach Krishna like that, in an apologetic way. You know, please excuse me, I didn't understand how things worked, but instead, I did this, Krishna, I did that, Krishna, I did that. You know, I was really so pious. And I made an innocent mistake. Excuses there. Another indication of his false pride was, and this is also part of the reason he had to suffer, interesting, is that when the brahmanas came to him, they were arguing. It's my cow. It's my cow. It was given to me. It was given to me. What he did is he tried to bribe the Brahmins. See, I'll offer you millions or 100,000, whatever number it was, if you go back to the previous verses, cows. And the Brahmanas were insulted. Why were they insulted? Because a Brahmana is not bribable. It's interesting. Because traditionally, of course, those who held jobs were not considered Brahmins because, you know, they had an employer. And when you have an employer and you're getting money, guess what? You have to follow the directions of your employer. Probably not, of course, I'm not criticizing any devotee. I'm not that fanatic. Any devotee who has a job. But it is a fact, according to the Vedic system, that like Prabhupada talked about people who went to the university and then they were begging like what? Dogs for a job. Please give me a job. I'm an engineer. This is not criticizing anybody. We're in the modern world, and I understand everyone has to make a living. There's no problem with it. However, one should not be influenced by money and change one's religious principles or preaching because of money. One has to be very, 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 very careful to maintain one's Brahminical status. If one has second initiation, or even if one doesn't have second initiation, one has to be very careful. Anyway, so the Brahmanas, they were actually teaching King Riga a lesson. You can't bribe us, which he was trying to do. So he had all these faults. You know, there were many different faults that King Riga had. So he had to suffer because of that. And then also, he was thinking he was in the mode of goodness. And as we know, you know, performing activities according to the Vedic statements. And as we know, that in the material mode of goodness, there's also some contamination of the other modes of nature. That is passion and ignorance. Vishuddha-sattva is something different. Vishuddha-sattva, of course, is the transcendental mode of goodness in which there's no contamination of passion or ignorance. And you can see he was passionate. What is the evidence he was passionate? The evidence he was passionate is he wanted to go to the heavenly planets. And as long as one is passionate, wanting something, as stated by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, Bhukti Mukti Siddhikam Sakalaya Shanta, Krishna Bhakta nishkam, otoiva shanta. As long as one wants some enjoyment in this world, or liberation, or city powers, then one will not be happy. Because you can't be happy if you're ashanta, if your mind is disturbed. So even the desire for mukti is self-centered. It's interesting also, and I've talked about this many times before, that Prabhupada would sometimes say that we should desire to get out of this material world, go back to Godhead. So, and devotee asked Prabhupada, there's several times devotees would ask Prabhupada, so should we simply desire to take birth after birth in this material world to serve Krishna? And Prabhupada said, no, you should want to go back to Godhead. Now, the reason Prabhupada said that, although the desire to go back to God or get out of this material world is not a pure desire, but it's necessary for us to understand our desires. It's necessary for us to approach Krishna and honestly reveal our desires, or even in the beginning, utilize our desires as an impetus to serve Krishna, like we have Chaturveda Bhajanti Mam. People come to Krishna consciousness. Why? Because they're looking for wealth. They're inquisitive. They're in distress. Or they're wanting knowledge, right? So all of us came to Krishna consciousness because of some desire like that, unless you happen to be a Nityasiddha devotee. Just the fact that we came to Krishna consciousness means we have some desire. So the statement is, akama sarvakama mokshakama dharadi tivrena bhakti yogena yajeta purusham param. We should approach Krishna honestly, understanding our particular desires, not be dishonest. In many cases, people are dishonest. They say, Krishna, I have no desires. I just want to take birth after birth to serve you. Manma janmani janmanishvare bhavatad bhaktir ahoituki twaye. What is that? Narayana paraksarve nukatashjana vivyati swarka bhavarga Nadakeshu apitul yarta darshana. A famous verse. That a topmost devotee of Narayana, like me, is prideful again. Not me, of course. I'm speaking facetiously right now. A topmost devotee of Narayana Parak Sarveg, Nakatashna Bhivyate, Swarga Bhavarga. He doesn't care if he goes to heaven. He doesn't care if he goes to hell. He doesn't care if he gets liberated. Api Tulyarta Darshana. He sees all these places as equal. So we have to be honest with Krishna. We're not on this particular platform. But we should desire to come to that platform, but be honest with Krishna at the same time. But at the same time, we shouldn't be doing karma khandya activities. Now, I have a very interesting question about karma khandya activities, mundane charity and everything like that. It's quite interesting. And it's a question I wanted to ask yesterday, but I didn't have enough time, and it was a little controversial. Like, sometimes we find devotees who criticize, a little controversial, I have to preface that, who criticize ISKCON's activities of feeding people or opening up hospitals, and they say it's karma khandya activities. One devotee, actually one of my godbrothers, even said we could call food for life, food for death. Death. Because he considered it a karma khandya activity. So is it a karma khandya activity, or is it devotional service? That's interesting. Well, first of all, we understand it's prasadam. So definitely, it should not be considered karma kanya activity. So his criticism is not valid. So what about devotees opening up what? Hospitals. Like you have the Bhaktivedanta Hospital in Mumbai. And is that a karma kanya activity or not? No, because devotees at the same time are helping people deal with their physical illnesses. They're helping people become Krishna conscious, because in each and every room there's the kirtan playing. They bring around, I think, the deities of Lord Jagannath to every room every day. It's people getting exposed to Krishna consciousness. So it's not a karma kanya activity. But let's take another example of one time the devotees were with Srila Bhaktisaranta Saraswati Thakur. And there were some beggars there, starving. And the devotees, and it's not described where this was. It may not have been in Vrindavan. It may not have been Brajavasis. And the devotees were not giving the beggars anything. And Srila Bhaktisaranta Saraswati Thakur, he criticized them. He said, you have hard hearts because these people are suffering, so you should give them something. Of course, generally we should give prasadam to them. But in any case, he criticized the devotees for having hard hearts. So the devotees can engage in certain charitable activities as long as they connect Krishna to it. And these activities should never be considered karma kanya, because their whole consciousness, a devotee's whole consciousness should be, first of all, we're doing this to serve Krishna, and second of all, these are all Krishna's parts and parcels. Now it's interesting that King Nriga was only serving the Brahmanas. There's no description of him giving charity to others. So if one discriminates, let's say with food for life, if one discriminates, we're only going to feed what? The poor people. Daridra Narayan there. The poor Narayans. Actually, Prabhupada was very humorous about this. He said, what about, Dani Narayan? The rich Narayans. So we're only going to feed the poor people, not other people. But Prabhupada said, prasadam should be given out without discrimination. And of course, in certain circumstances, Prabhupada said no one should go hungry in Mayapur. When he saw people starving, the children fighting with the dogs to just eat the scraps left over by the visiting devotees. So anyway, so King Nriga, he was only serving the Brahmanas. Whereas a devotee should be, yes, of course, serving the Brahmanas, but what is it? Yastu sarvani bhutani atmane vanupashati. He should see everyone connected to Krishna. And in this way, you could actually do charitable activities, but of course, charitable activities that don't take people away from Krishna consciousness. You don't want to give meat to people, you want to give people prasadam. So devotees can be helping people like that. I remember the one time in Australia, there was a burning building, and people were screaming for help. Help. There wasn't. The police weren't, and the fire people weren't there. And the devotees had the Rath Yatra cart with the canopy, and they brought the canopy out, and they said, of course, jump. And some people jumped, and they were saved. And Prabhupada was very pleased with that. In other words, it's not that devotees should be hard-hearted and think, That's their karma. That's their karma. If they're meant to burn to death, that's their karma, Prabhu. Let them fry. They're working out their karma. Anyway, so devotees can help others. And the interesting thing is, actually, another example is even when I, in an airplane, sometimes I help older people. I'm not old. I help older people get their bags down. Now, does that mean I'm doing karma kanja activities or, pious? No. Because they appreciate it. If they appreciate a devotee, that's their devotional service. So it's a question of the motive. And that was brought out yesterday. It's a question of the motive. One is, and the consciousness of one is seeing people connected to Krishna, seeing people as your brothers and sisters, and helping them, and also giving them whatever Krishna consciousness they can have or they can accept, then, that's devotional service. So nobody should criticize these activities that devotees are doing, like distributing prasadam or opening up hospitals or anything like that. This is a very interesting point I wanted to bring out. Now, as far as ordinary Vedic injunctions or karma kanja activities or ritualistic activities or Sparta injunctions, which King Riga was very attached to, I wanted to read what Madhavendra Puri has to say about this. Madhavendra Puri, of course, you don't have to take the microphone. I'm not finished yet. I'm still winding up. So Madhavendra Puri, of course, is the grand spiritual master of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And he basically, Prabhupada describes, this is from Prabhupada's commentary in the Chaitanya Charitamrita that I'm reading. He describes how Madhavendra Puri took leave, Prabhupada's exact words, very British way of saying it. In America, we say gave up. In British, we say took leave. Of all karma kanja obligations, with the following words. And this should be a devotee's consciousness. Just one point before I read this. Sometimes devotees who come from India approach me and whether they should do certain karma kanja activities because their family's pressuring them. And I actually tell them that certain times you can do certain activities like Pinda and everything like that if people will criticize the Krishna consciousness movement for not doing those things. So, for example, in Fiji, they ask me all the time about these death rituals. And I tell them, do whatever is in your culture so people will respect our movement as being bona fide. So Prabhupada sometimes would employ smarta brahmanas to do things so people would respect our movement, like when the time the Krishna Balaram were installed. He employed the brahmanas, but Prabhupada said the real installation was done by, what does anyone remember? The chanting of Hare Krishna, Hari Nam. So here, getting back to Madhavendra Puri, this is such a beautiful verse, I wanted to read it. He took leave of all karma kanja obligations, Prabhupada's words, in the following words. Sanjavanam Bhadramastu Bhavato Bo Snana Tubhyam Namo Bo Deva Pitarascha Tarpana Vidau Naham Shama Shamyatam Yatrakpapi Nishadja Yadava Kulotam Shasha Kamsadisha Smaram Agam Harami Tad Alam Manyekim Anyame. Oh, my evening prayer, all good unto you. This is really interesting. Oh, my morning bath, I bid you goodbye. It's not that he didn't take a bath, but not the ritualistic Brahmin bath. Yeah, everybody takes a bath. Oh, demigods and forefathers, please excuse me. I am unable to perform any more offerings for your pleasure. Now I have decided to free myself from all reactions to sin simply by remembering anywhere and everywhere the great descendant of Yadu and the great enemy of Kamsa, Lord Krishna. I think this is sufficient for me. So what is the use of further endeavors? Beautiful verse by Sripad Madhavendra Puri. So if we engage in devotional service, chant the Lord's holy names, then whatever pious or sinful activities we may have committed before become eradicated, even by the nama, even by namabhas chanting, which gets rid of the parabdha karma, aparabdha karma, kuta, and bija. So thank you very much. Although
Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Samasitam Buddha Sundarangam Kandar Bhagom Vidamaniya Vishesha Shobha Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Andani Yasa Sakale Priya Priti Manti Vasyan Dipan Dikayanti Jiram Naganti Ananda Chinmaya Sadhu Jala Vigrahasya Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami 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 Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami
Namo Vishnu Vajaya Krishna Pristaya Mutale Shimate Bhakti Vedanta Saminiti Namante Namo Vishnu Vajaya Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Saminiti Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Bhajar Neke Nivesesha Shunyavadi Masya Jagade Satarane Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadada Siva Sade Gaurmata Vrinda Krishna Chaitanya Shri Krishna Nirana Brahmanityananda Dvaita Gadada Siva Sade Gaurmata Vrinda Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda It's Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadada Siva Sade Gaurmata Vrinda Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Govinda Jaya Jaya, Gopala Jaya Jaya, Radha Ramana Hare, Govinda Jaya Jaya. Govinda Jaya Jaya, Gopala Jaya Jaya, Radha Ramana Hare, Govinda Jaya Jaya. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. I go looking go looking on the drug tape. I go looking on the run, go looking on the drug tape. Radhe, 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 Radhe. Radhe, 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 Radhe. Jai, Jai, Om.
So tomorrow is last Friday, which is a big event in downtown Hillsborough, and we want everyone to know that we'll be there with Harinam Sankirtan between 5:30 and 7:30. So please come. It's going to be hot, but it's not going to rain. So we'll have a nice opportunity to give everyone in Hillsborough a chance to hear the holy names. Hare Krishna. 5:30 to 7:30. Chaitodarpanam marjanam bhava mahadavagni termapanam. Thank you very much. Ivayavadu jivanam anandam buddhi vardhanam pratipanam pranamrita swadanam sarvatma snapanam param vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam nam namakari bahuda nija sarva shaktis tatrapita niyamita smarane nakala etadrishi tavakripa bhagavan mamapi durdaiva midrishami hajjani nanuraga trinadapi sunichena tarorapi sahishuna amani namanadena kirtaniya sadahari nadanam najanam nasundarim kavitam va jagadisha kamaye mama janmani ishvare bhavatad bhaktir hoitaki twai ainanda tanuja kinkaram patitam mam vishame bhavam buddha kripayata vabada pankaja stita duli sadrashim vachintaya nayanam galadashu daraya varanam gadgadurudaya gira pulakarnishitam vapukada tavanamagrahane bhavishyati yugayatam namishena chakshusha pravashayatam shunayatam jagat sarvam govindam virahena me ashlishavapadamartam anastumam adarshanam marmahata karotuva mat prananatastusa eva napara. Victory to the Sri Krishna Sankirtan, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life, of repeated birth and death. This Sankirtan movement is the prime benediction rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss, and it enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we are always anxious. O my Lord, congregational chanting of your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings, and thus you have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names, you've invested all your transcendental energies. There are not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. O my Lord, out of kindness you enable us to easily approach you by your holy names, but I am so unfortunate, no attraction for them. One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw on the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your causeless devotional service, birth after birth. O Son of Maharaj Nanda Krishna, I am your eternal servitor, yet somehow or other I have fallen into the ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of your atoms at your lotus feet. O my Lord, when will my eyes be decorated with tears of love flowing constantly when I chant your holy name? When will my voice choke up, and when will the hairs of my body stand